Go ahead and start recording. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diogo Pinheiro. I'm the Assistant Director for CURCA. With me here today is Alison Grandal, the Administrative Assistant for CURCA. And today we're going to talk about the travel grants that we provide every semester, right? So every semester, CURCA will have these travel grants. They cover travel by students up to a certain date, right? So this is the spring cycle for 2024, which covers trips from now until September 30th, right? So if you have a conference that you're trying to attend between now and September 30th, this is the cycle that you would apply for. And so we're going to cover the basics of how to apply, things to keep in mind as you're preparing your application, and then we're going to finish this up with any questions that you might have. As usual, if there's something that we didn't cover today that you think about later that you want to ask us, you can email us at curca@ung.edu. So first things first, where can you apply for our student travel grants? If you go to the CURCA webpage, ung.edu/CURCA, you'll see that in the For Students menu, there's going to be the fall/spring travel grants. Once you click on that button, you will see this page here, and there's going to be this button that will say apply on InfoReady. InfoReady is the platform that we use so that students can apply for our programs. So once you click on that apply for student travel grant, you're going to be taken to the InfoReady page. You log into the InfoReady page using your UNG credentials, and that's where you submit everything, right? One thing to keep in mind is that if you've successfully completed your application, you will receive a confirmation email that your application is complete, right? We don't want to be in a situation where someone prepared everything and they forgot to hit submit or something along those lines, right? We can only consider things that have been kind of officially submitted. So make sure that once you've completed everything, you hit that submit button, and make sure that once you've completed everything, you check for that confirmation email to make sure that everything is in place. The deadline for applications is January 26th at 11:59 p.m., right? So we're about 9 days away, right? So at that 11:59 p.m. on January 26th, that's your deadline to apply for our travel grants, right? So once again, make sure that you receive that confirmation email to make sure that your submission is in, right? So what do you need to apply? So the main thing that you're going to need to apply for a student travel grant is going to be this cover letter. This cover letter is going to have a limit of 2 pages for the narrative, and then the budget is not included in those 2 pages, right? So the budget goes along with it, but the budget can go over those 2 pages. And so what do we want in that cover letter? We want information about what you're trying to do. More specifically, what conference are you trying to go to? Is it a regional conference? Is it a national conference? Is it an undergraduate only conference? Is it a professional conference with an undergraduate section? Is it just a professional conference? So that's an important part of what we're looking for. The other part that we're looking for here is, what is your role in the presentation? Are you the primary author? Are you the secondary author? Are you the presenter? Are you going to be the co-presenter? Something along those lines, right? Make sure that that information is in those 2 pages. Is this a poster or is this an oral presentation? How involved was your mentor, right? In other words, is this your mentor's project that you did a little part of it, or is it primarily your project that your mentor just assisted you? And then the key thing here is going to be how presenting at this conference is going to set you up for your career goals, right? Your professional and career goals. Is this something that is going to be important for your professional development? And if so, it's try to be as specific as possible, right? How does presenting at this conference help you long term? After that, this narrative is supposed to take up the 2 pages, we want to see a brief budget with evidence for your travel, and lodging costs, right? Uh, we'll talk more a little bit about this, but what I want to make sure that you understand is that the evidence here, we're not asking for you to submit additional paperwork. We don't ask you to submit any kind of like proof that you've already reserved a room or anything like that. The evidence here is that it's us looking to make sure that you've done your basic research, right? Oh, I found a flight on delta.com and that flight would cost $350. I looked at a hotel on for the conference and it would be $200 a night or something along those lines, right? We just want to make sure that you've done the research into what the realistic costs for your conference presentation is going to be, right? We don't want you to guess, oh yeah, I'm going to New York City and it's going to be $50 for a week, and then turns out that, well, no, you cannot find anywhere in New York City for $50 for a week, right? So a couple of other things. We're going to talk about the rubric in a second. The rubric is key. Make sure that you take a look at the rubric. Make sure that you write addressing the items in the rubric, because the rubric is how we're going to evaluate your submission. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you are working with a group, each student is supposed to apply individually, right? We don't do group submissions, right? Oh, you have a research group that has 3 different students. Each student will have to apply separately, and the decisions will be made separately, right? So you have to explain, in a case where you have a group project, you have to explain the role of each student there. And you have to kind of make us understand how or why 3 different people for the same project are important to attend this conference or something along those lines. So that's the cover letter, and that's the key thing. And we'll talk about it in a second. But besides the cover letter, there are some very important items that you have to submit. First, you have to submit your originally submitted abstract, right? To be accepted into the conference, you had to submit an abstract of some form. Send that to us, right? If the deadline hasn't passed yet, you can send the one that you're planning on submitting, right? But we need to have that abstract to make sure that the application is real. The other thing that we need is a proof of acceptance. Now, we understand that some conferences probably won't make a decision for a little bit. So if you don't have a proof of acceptance for the conference, submit a statement that says, oh, I expect to hear from the conference by April 15th or something along those lines, right? And then the last thing that you need, and this is perhaps the most important thing to make sure that you have submitted, is a copy of the student travel authorization form, right? It has to be either DocuSigned or the original, depending on what your department does. But we need to have that. And if you're submitting the hard copy, it has to be submitted to one of our offices by the afternoon of the closing date, right? So on January 26th, we need to have that hard copy or the DocuSign copy of your student travel authorization. In the Gainesville campus, you submit it at Administration Building 111, and in the Lonaga campus, it's Dunlap 108A, right? So we need to have that student travel authorization. For that student travel authorization, it's linked on InfoReady. We just need you to fill out the sections that are highlighted, right? So you would need your mentor to sign your form. We would need you to fill out the parts that are highlighted. If it's not highlighted, don't worry about it. So this is what the student travel authorization form would look like. You can see here, for example, account name, you don't have to fill that out. It's not highlighted, right? So anything that's not highlighted, you don't have to worry about. This is important because we can only fund students who have the student travel authorization, and it has to be submitted with your application, right? The student travel authorization is going to have this itemized estimate of costs. You can kind of refer to the information that you entered in your narrative as to what your budget's supposed to be. With regards to the budget here, it's very important to understand that it's okay to go over. It's tough if you go under, right? So in other words, if you say that you want to spend $100 on lodging, and it turns out that the cost was $300, well, because on your original application you only mentioned $100, you can only pay up to that $100, right? You overestimate the cost and you come under it, perfect. You underestimate the cost and you go over it, we cannot make up that difference, right? So be reasonable in terms of the amounts that you enter, but if you have to guess on the higher end, not on the lower end, right? So remember that you have to have it signed by both you and your faculty mentor, right? So don't wait until the last minute to get that faculty mentor signature, right? And remember to enter all the highlighted information here, right? If you are in a department that also offers student travel funding, make sure that they also sign off on the student travel form, right? So some departments, they will contribute, and so it would be like CURCA plus someone else paying for your travel. If this other authority is also paying for your travel, they might need to sign off on this as well, right? And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email us. But otherwise, we either need a DocuSign copy that's sent to kirk@ung.edu, or the original that's dropped off at either the Dahlonega campus or the Gainesville campus at the offices listed here. So how are we going to evaluate your submission? The way that we do these travel grants are competitive. Some semesters we have enough funding to cover everybody. Other semesters we can only cover the top, 10, 15, 30, depends on the semester. And so the way that we decide who we're going to fund is based on this rubric, right? I am not the one making the decision. We have a number of faculty reviewers who are going to look at your stuff, and they're going to score your application based on this rubric. Now, it's very important to pay close attention to the rubric, because it's not necessarily the case that the person who's going to be reviewing your application is going to be in your field, right? So it's not necessarily the case that the person who's reviewing your application is going to know that a conference is a big deal or not, right? People may know or they may not know a lot about your field. So it's important to write things that even someone from outside of your field might understand, and will be able to score based on this rubric, right? So there's going to be 5 categories on your rubric. The first one is the impact of presentation. Here, we're looking for information on whether the conference is going to be an international conference, a regional conference, a local conference, right? And it's important for you to mention that in your cover letter. Even if it seems obvious to you, make sure that you mention, right? Oh, this conference here is an international conference. It's a national conference. It's a regional, local, etc. Make sure that you mention that. Next, the next item is the student participation. Are you the sole presenter? Are you co-presenting? Are you attending but not the presenting member, right? Make sure that you mention your role, right? Keep in mind that if you don't discuss your role at all in the presentation, the rubric scores that as a 0. Next, it's the type of conference. Are you presenting at a professional conference at a professional section? Are you presenting at an undergraduate-only conference? Are you presenting at a professional conference, but on the undergraduate part of the program? And if you're unsure, make sure that you talk to your mentor to clarify that specific type of conference. So that's the third item. The fourth item is the most important one. It's worth twice as much as every other item, which is going to be the academic/professional development. And here what we're looking for is information about how this particular presentation is going to enhance your career, right? And here we're looking for, the more specific you can be, the better, right? Oh, I really want to go into grad school, and graduate schools really weigh heavily your participation in conferences, and so therefore this conference would be an important thing for me. Or, oh, I really need to get this type of experience, and this conference will show that. In other words, why is attending this conference important for you and for your career, right? The more specific, the stronger your application is going to be. And the last thing here is going to be the budget, right? So the more thorough you are with your budget, the higher the score, right? And here we are asking for you to provide us with a budget breakdown, and we're asking you to provide us with evidence. Now, evidence here is very broadly defined, right? It can be a screenshot from a website. It can be you just mentioning that you went to this website and you found things this way. Essentially, what we're looking for here in terms of evidence is evidence that you went out and did research on how much it's going to actually cost to attend the conference that you're going to be attending, right? We want to make sure that the costs that you're estimating are reasonable, are appropriate, right? We don't want you to be like, oh, I'm going to go to Japan and I need $100 for an airplane ticket, right? We want to make sure that you are very much aware of the costs involved. So in terms of the budget breakdown, a few things to keep in mind, right? One, the travel grants can only refund you up to $500, but we want to see the budget even if it exceeds $500, right? So don't just put in the first $500 of your budget. Make sure that you put everything in, right? If it goes over the $500, that's fine, right? So that's one thing. Next, we can refund registration fees, but we cannot refund membership fees, right? So if the conference has a registration fee, you can put that on the budget. But if you have to be a member of the association, that membership cannot go on the budget, right? So we can refund registration, but not membership. Lodging, keep in mind that, and again, these are university regulations, that's not up to us. Things like our Airbnb, VRBO, those kinds of like, sites are not reimbursable by UNG. It has to be a hotel. It has to be kind of an official thing, right? Car rentals are only reimbursable if it's rented through Hertz or Enterprise. In terms of airfare, we can only reimburse the base fare, right? We cannot pay for selecting your seats. We cannot pay for refundable tickets. We can only pay the base fare. For meals, you don't enter how much you think a meal is going to cost. You enter the per diem, and we're going to talk about the per diem in a second. And for transportation, make sure that you mention whether you're carpooling, and if not, make sure that you include mileage, provide evidence that you're guessing the mileage correctly, right? So there's a specific amount. We don't reimburse how much you actually spent on gas. We reimburse based on the mileage, right? So that's on the right here, you have an example of what it's supposed to look like. So in terms of the meals, and this again is not a CURCA thing, it's a UNG thing, it's a state thing. The way that we calculate meal costs is based on a per diem, right? The US General Services Administration is going to have a website that lists the per diems if you're traveling out of state. If you're traveling in state, the per diem is $50 per day with 75% for the first and last day of travel. Out of state, you have to, it's going to vary by city and state, and you have to go by what the GSA website says, right? Keep in mind that first and last day of travel, the rate is discounted to 75% of the listed amount. And then what we look at is going to be this per diem, right? Oh, the per diem is this, but you only ate out of the dollar menu at McDonald's. Doesn't matter. We just look at the per diem, right? It's not about the actual cost of meals. It's about the per diem. If the conference provides you with meals, you have to deduct that from your per diem amount. A few things to keep in mind. If you are selected to receive a grant, you should talk to Allison Grindell to make sure that all the paperwork is ongoing, right? You can reach Allison by emailing either curca@ung.edu or allison.grindell@ung.edu. She can work with you to make sure that the budget is fine. Keep all your receipts for the things that require receipts, right? So like lodging, trip, travel, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to keep receipts for like food, anything that's covered by the per diem, you don't need to keep the receipts, but for everything else, you need to keep the receipts. The hotel receipt has to show a zero balance, right? It cannot just be like, oh, here's your folio. It has to show that you paid stuff. And we do encourage you to share hotels, carpool, etc., because again, we can only reimburse up to $500. We cannot go over that, right? After you've done everything, you have to be reimbursed after the conference, right? There will be very few exceptions where we can reimburse you ahead of it. Most of the time, we can just reimburse after it. You have 2 weeks after the date of the travel to request reimbursement, right? So don't wait for too long. Within those 2 weeks, you have to submit the reimbursement form that's going to need to be signed. There's going to be a student vendor form. We need a copy of the conference that shows your name there so that we know that you actually participated in the conference. And then the original receipts for hotel, for mileage, et cetera, right? If you need help, email curca@ung.edu and we can go over these things with you. And so to cover the last few bits of information, we can only cover travel for students who are currently enrolled at UNG. So if your trip is not going to happen after you've graduated, we cannot cover your travel, right? So you have to be a current student for us to reimburse you. So seniors can apply for the travel grant, but that presentation has to happen before they graduate. The way that we work here, we're not giving you $500, we're reimbursing you $500 towards travel. So it's, you still have to show that you had those expenses, right? The $500 limit is a limit for the year. So if you won fall travel grants, if you're going to go to more than one conference, we're still limited to $500 for the entire academic year. If you request more money than $500, it's not going to hurt your chances. In fact, it's very important for you to be realistic with the costs, right? And then, as we mentioned, you can apply for more than one conference. Just understand that we can only cover up to $500 for the academic year. So to kind of recap, you apply via the InfoReady website. You need a cover letter, you need the submitted abstract, you need a proof of acceptance, and you need a copy of your student travel authorization form. If you have any questions, send those to us at curca@ung.edu, and we can work together to make sure that everything is in place.